Welcome to Complicated Opportunities, a CosmereRPG podcast with a couple of GMs. And today I'm back for another interview at JordanCon, but I am joined by Karen Ahlstrom, the continuity editor at Dragonsteel. Karen, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself. We're a CosmereRPG podcast, so we're just going to be talking about the RPG for the most part.
Yeah, so I am Karen Ahlstrom. I am married to Peter Ahlstrom, who is the editorial VP at Dragonsteel, and might have seen his name around. I have 3 girls and just love doing the continuity stuff. And
yeah. So I've gotten to know Karen. I've been a beta reader for a couple of years, so I've seen her at different events and whatnot. Karen's the best. I was not jokingly, telling her earlier, everyone we talked to at Brotherwise said Karen is the real MVP for them and between Brotherwise and Dragonsteel. So kind of just walk us through a little bit of what you do with Brotherwise, so our fans will know kind of all the hard work that you put in.
Yeah, so with the RPG, Brandon and Brotherwise sit down and have a brainstorming session, and they talk about what they really want to expand in his worlds, and he says, yeah, and here's some other stuff about that, or I'm going to be writing that book fairly soon and want to have the freedom to explore like the Malwish Empire, and so we're not going to do that right now. And so then they go and write up what they have for the world, and then they send me their manuscripts and outlines. And so then I go through those with a fine-tooth comb and say, yeah, that's great. That fits canon. Or I know Brandon's going to say yes to this. Or I don't know. I've got to ask him about that. Or no, you've got it wrong. And I send it back to them and they fix it, both text and art, and send it back to me. And they're really good about making the fixes that I tell them need to be done.
Awesome. Now, with Brotherwise, and we can actually talk spoilers of anything that's been released. So mostly just the Stormlight campaign. I don't want to Mistborn we could talk about next year at Nexus or something like that. So with the Stormlight stuff, like, it's really awesome that you guys allowed them to write a canon adventure about an event that fans have been asking about. Taln's Honor Blade getting from Taln at the end of Words of Radiance to Shenovar at the beginning of Wind and Truth. So what was like some of your favorite parts about working with that story? Some of the cool stuff that you got to let them do? Just tell me a little bit more about the Stonewalkers in general.
Yeah, so Brandon has tons of ideas that he would love to get out there into the world, and he just plain doesn't have time to do it. And so being able to tell this story and let the fans have that experience, and leave it a little open-ended so that people could make their own contribution to it, he loved to have that happen. And it was fun for me to say, okay, this, I wanted to know the answers too, right? We went some places where we haven't been before, like Rallalorim, and finding out what it means to be the City of Shadows was really an exciting thing to hear. Yeah,
so we were just on a CosmereRPG panel, and like, so how much of that story can you go into, the Rallalorim and how that came about? Because you dropped a couple things I didn't know in there that I thought was really cool.
Yeah, so Brotherwise, with the campaigns, works also with Dan. And so the Mistborn campaign, he was really involved in that, and going back and forth with them about just how much you can do with that big time jump.
Yeah.
And with some of the really Dan elements that he wanted to put in was a challenge on that one. But with Rallalorim, Dan came up with the description of the city and what they mean about the shadows and
So were the shadow
those-
form singers Dan's idea?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, that is really cool. I wanted to ask that in the
I mean,
panel, but I didn't want to give spoilers there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He loves the ghost and the gore and the horror sort of ideas, and so that was him.
Yeah, when you mentioned that, I was like, oh, Dan had to be the shadow form singers. That's so cool. Yeah, they are. I love the design on those. Using them in the game's a lot of fun as a GM too.
I don't have the authority to okay this.
Gotcha.
And so going back to Brandon, he was like, yeah, I brainstormed with Dan on that, and it's all good.
Awesome.
So that, sometimes I have these questions and Brandon's like, that's a really good catch, Karen. And other times he's like, no, let him go for it.
That is so much fun. So, like, had you played a lot of RPGs, or is this all kind of a new world to you?
I've done a couple of little one-shots, but improv is hard for me.
Same. As a GM, that's actually the thing I struggle with the most, to be perfectly honest.
And so I get nervous and have a hard time, like, doing the role playing.
Yeah.
And so I my kids play D&D, and my brothers did, and so I know how it works.
Right.
But haven't really done a whole lot with it myself.
Cool. I was just curious. So how different has that been working on something like an RPG versus the continuity that you normally do for, when a Stormlight book's coming out, or when a Mistborn book's coming out, or even a Secret Project?
Yeah. So most of, the world guide, I had to go through it all with a fine-tooth comb. I was able to skim a lot of the rules in the DM Player's Handbook, whatever we call it. And I have to, pay attention at some parts, but it was nice to be able to say, okay, they know how to balance this.
Right.
I don't have to. With some of the stat blocks, those were things that I really needed to look at. And when they were doing the fused powers,
okay,
they had their stat blocks and their power trees and stuff, and I was like, you have completely misunderstood how the fused powers work.
Oh.
And so the fused each have two powers. There's their internal power that they can use infinitely. Like, the heavenly ones can fly forever.
Okay.
And then there's their external power that they have to use up their void light for. So
okay.
if they lash somebody, that uses up their void light.
Huh. I don't think I realized that, to be honest.
And so each of them has that internal and external power. And so, you don't need to use investiture points for a heavenly one to fly.
Huh.
So, for them, going back and balancing that was a challenge.
Right.
And, then they had to write entirely new stat blocks.
Yeah.
So that was one of the mechanics that I did have input on.
That's awesome. I don't think I even realized that. I always joke that I'm not the most lore useful person in the world. I can tell you whether I'm enjoying a book or whether I am bored. That's about where I'm at. I'm also one of those readers that when I get to the end of the book, I'm like, I don't know what happened, but I loved it. So, yeah, those attention to detail. That's awesome that you like caught that kind of stuff. So, how has has there been a favorite thing that you've seen come from the RPG, either lore-wise or process-wise, either something that made your job more interesting or just that you thought was a fun little addition that you got to read about? So
one of the fun things that happened was we're trying to, they've got a section on the Horn-Eater Peaks. And so I said, okay, there's these things that they're saying, and there's, the female huntress matriarch thing, and various other stuff. And Brandon's like, yeah, that's fine, but let me tell you about the Horneater Peaks. They've got the perpendicularities there, and there is a traffic through the perpendicularity, and they can charge whatever they want for the people coming through. And parts of the Horneater Peaks are like a theme park, and the people come in and they do their little their little Polynesian dances like they do in Hawaii, and they they get lots of spheres and stuff. And then when some Bright Lord down in Vedenar is like, I am going to conquer the Horneater Peaks again, and he goes up there and says, and they're like, oh, you win, and we'll pay you taxes, and here is all the pitiful amount that we can scrape together. And they just grab a handful out of a drawer over here.
That's amazing.
So those moments when Brandon's like, just goes off about something brand new, those are really fun.
That's awesome. So do you have any worlds that you're looking forward to, just from your own curiosity, for Brotherwise to play in?
So, there are wide swaths of Cell that we have no idea about. Mm-hmm. And so that's exciting to look forward to knowing about those things. But also, there's a whole lot that I'm going to have to say that I'm going to have to talk to Brandon about.
Right.
And, getting 5 minutes with Brandon during the editorial meeting that they have every other week, that I can do. But if I need an hour with him, that's really hard. Takes work to fit that into his schedule. So, that's going to be an interesting balancing act.
Yeah. So you're excited to see it, but also it's going to make your work life not as fun. Awesome. Is there anything else that you were excited about seeing that's been happening with the RPG now that fans have been able to get their hands on it?
So, we have meetings with Brotherwise every once in a while, and they give us updates on, how it's doing, how it's selling, is this worth our time to be doing this? And evidently it's one of the best-selling RPGs out there at the moment. And so that's exciting that it's getting into so many fans, either new people who are brand new to the world, and I know that there are a lot of those, and to give more to our established fan base that they can just enjoy. We were in that CosmereRPG panel, and a good third of the people there said that they bought the book just for the lore, and that's fun to know that they're enjoying it too.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Really, that's all the questions I had, because I don't want to take up too much of your time. I really appreciate you sitting down with me. Is there anything else you just want to say, either, because we've already talked about what you're looking forward to lore-wise, but just anything exciting that you want to talk about with the RPG coming up that you're looking forward to?
So one of the things that we had to do for Brotherwise, it started out with their Shards of Creation card game, mm-hmm. but will probably be used in the RPG, is we needed to sit down with Brandon and Isaac, our art director, and Dan, who's with narrative, and say, all right, what do we know about each of the shards? What is the name of the vessel of each of the shards? What is the numerology that each of the shards has? What colors do they like? And, what are their physical descriptions? And so being able to get those things out, people want to know about Whimsy, right?
Oh, for sure.
And that's going to come out whether Brandon has time to write mm-hmm. a full Whimsy novel or not.
I'd say just a sidebar for the community in general, like we've all been talking about, obviously we've talked about like what are these different shards, what would that look like in an RPG? And it is wild seeing the different varieties people want to take whimsies. Like what my co-host is adamant that whimsy is going to be like the Feywild and just like crazy fairies that just have no morals whatsoever and they're just pure chaos. But then other people are just like, no, whimsy is just running around doing whatever whimsy wants to do without thinking about it. So it is an interesting, like that is the one random shard that I guess I hadn't thought much about. Like I want to know what Valor looks like. Like I want to know more about Valor. And they're all like, no, give us more whimsy. So yeah, that's cool that you guys got to sit down and have a conversation about that. Just a couple personal questions, like just fun.
Yeah.
Like what's your favorite Cosmere book that you've got to read?
So I loved Words of Radiance.
Yeah.
Working on that, it was so much, he had grown as a writer a lot from The Way of Kings.
Right.
And from, doing the Wheel of Time stuff, he really had to up his game. And so getting into Words of Radiance and the complexity of that book and the beauty and the characters, that I really, really enjoyed working on.
That's cool to hear. Words is my favorite of the Cosmere books. Stormlight is where I live. Like those are my favorite. I live for those books. I've read all of them. Mistborn actually got me back into reading. I was an English major in college and was so done with reading after reading nonstop all the time. But Mistborn actually got sent to me as a free Kindle book on Facebook when they were trying to really push Kindles. And I fell down that rabbit hole. And I've been a fan ever since. So yeah.
Yeah, I also really liked Yumi.
That's my favorite secret project.
Obviously, you're wearing the shirt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, those of you that can't see, I have the Kilahito shirt. Yumi is definitely my favorite secret project.
Yeah. So my husband and I, we watch a lot of anime, and
Peter's recommended a lot of good anime to me.
yeah, and Brandon thought the idea of Hikaru no Go, where the person is possessed by the ghost of a master of a specific thing, that was really a neat idea that he wanted to explore. And body swapping is also a trope in anime. And so, getting that book and saying, this was a book written for our family, was really fun.
That's awesome. Yeah. Let's see. Do you have a favorite character?
Words of Radiance, Shalon.
Okay.
Where she was really exploring who she was, and before she completely broke down.
Yeah.
I personally am bipolar, and so I really related with a lot of the mental stress that she was going through, and he worked so hard to get it right, and to say, I really feel represented here.
That's awesome.
That was nice.
Yeah. You and I had a conversation about that before, but thank you for sharing that. Like that was really eye-opening for me that when you and I had a conversation at Nexus, and it actually helped me understand like my wife a lot more. So that's, I've never told you that, but I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I feel like one of my missions in life is to help with the destigmatization of mental health issues. I'm very open about it on Facebook, and have had a lot of people that I vaguely know call me and really have these deep conversations about it, and validating their life experience. And so yeah, that's one of the things. Understand your peeps with mental health, because there's a lot of them, whether you know it or not.
Absolutely. I do love that in society in general, that's been something that has gotten talked about a lot more. It's not as stigmatized. We still have a long way to go.
Yeah. The internet has helped.
It really has. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you. Let's see. Last fun question. I guess we'll go with 2. What would be your Radiant order? I have an assumption, but I'm curious to see if I'm right.
Well, so in the books, I am a Windrunner.
Okay. I was wrong.
There's Pete, who's in Bridge 4, and he fell in love with Ka, the bar girl in the Ornery Troll.
Oh my God. I never put that together.
That's me. And I have a little shard pen. I've used the shard blade, but mostly the pen. If I hadn't been that, I would be an Ange dancer.
Okay.
Probably. Just the way that they are trying to help the one, and to, recognize that these people exist too.
That's awesome. I would put you as a light weaver because you're extremely artistic. So I got some resin dice that you made that are just gorgeous. I've already thrown them in my Cosmere dice pack. So awesome. Well, Karen, is there anything else you wanted to go over or anything you wanted to say before we sign off?
Just that we really appreciate you fans. You're what make our lives possible to, I've got a job, my husband has a job, we have this great community at work, and we have a really great community among the fans and feel, welcomed and appreciated. And so we couldn't do this without you. And
well, we appreciate all the hard work you put in because all of us nerds love the continuity as well. So when you ever want to give us that Cosmere timeline, just access to it, you just let us know.
Yeah, I'm really hesitant about that one because, what if people find errors in it? Like, you can have my all-term spreadsheet. I'll pass that one out freely. But my master Cosmere timeline is a little less.
That's awesome. Well, Karen, thank you so much for sitting down with me. Irving would really appreciate it as well. I know he's not able to join us today, but yeah, and we are having a blast playing the RPG. But Irving and I are both part of the Brotherwise Envoy team, so we, like at Gen Con, we'll be running games. We ran games at Nexus. We love seeing the different communities come together. Thank you so much for all the work that you guys do.
Thank you.
And until next time, let's go ahead and roll the plot die and raise our stakes. This has been Complicated Opportunities.